Hello and welcome back to screeningboo.com. In this lecture, we're going to learn about file IO. File IO is a class of Java. So basically, you use this class in order to access the file, right? If you want to write a file, read a file, or overwrite the file, so on, you can use the file IO class. All IO methods are derived from class java.io. File input output in Java are performed using string. Basically, Java you use the file input output actions using string. Okay, a string can be defined as a sequence of data. There are two kinds of string. One, input stream, which is used to read data from a source. The output stream you use for writing a data to a destination. So in Java, basically you use stream in order to access the file or write the file and so on. So there are various streams that can be used to do input and output functions in Java. The first one is byte stream. You use byte stream to perform input and output of 8 bytes. And its most commonly used is file reader and file writer class of byte stream for byte streams. So if you actually do input and output for a small amount of data, then you use byte streams. So the second one is character streams. So you can use character streams to perform input and output of 16 bytes. The most commonly used is file input stream and file output stream class. And the third one is standard stream. Standard stream is used to provide a standard input and output where the user can take input from the keyboard and produce output in the computer screen. So till now we've been using standard stream, right? We're using system.out.println. So we're actually doing the standard stream, okay? Because we wanted to actually display the information to the user from the computer, right? You want to display the output, you want to use print the output, then we use system.out.println, which is the standard stream. So how would you do the byte stream first? Let's go do byte stream first. So here I've got this class here, byte stream, and I got this main method in here. So here, as you can see, I've got this throws IO exception that we learned in our exception handling, and I got try and finally, right? The reason I have a try is because I wanted to actually run this finally code in here. That's why I have this try, okay? And this catch is actually done by this throws IO exception in here. So here, as you can see here, I'm actually initializing variable in, okay, which is actually file reader class in here, in equal null. Then here, I'm actually creating a instance of this class file reader. Basically, I'm creating an instance of this class here, file reader, and here I actually provide the path of the input file. So as you can see here, I'm actually creating the instance of this file reader class here. Since this file reader has the constructor, the path, so I have to provide the path in here, which is the input.txt. And in here, I'm actually doing a while loop that we learned in our previous lecture, right? So here, I'm actually initializing I equals 0. And I'm doing a while loop in here. So what I'm actually doing is I'm actually reading the character from this in object, right? So I equal in.read. Okay, so read is a method unless is equal to is not equal to -1, right? So if you have less than -1, right? If you have 1, then means there's some character in that file, right? So unless it's a -1, I want to actually print out each character. So here I'm actually doing a typecasting I, because I could be anything, right? So here with this char here, I'm actually typecasting, meaning that whatever this I is, I'm actually converting into a char. So first, I initialize this file reader in equal null. So this in is the object for the file reader class. So here I'm actually initializing as null. Then here I'm actually creating an instance of this file reader class in equal new file reader. And this file reader requires the parameter of the path in here. So I'm actually providing the path. Once I have this checked in here, I'm actually trying to read each character from this in object. So I do a while loop in here. So I actually do int I equals 0. So I initialize this I variable to 0. Then here I'm actually say I equal in.read, right? So I'm actually reading object in here. And if it's not equal to -1, means if it is not -1 or greater, I want to actually print out the character, right? So here it says system.printout character. Print each byte character in single line. And after that, I actually want to close this file, right? So one thing that you need to always remember that is using the file input and output. Once you open it, you have to close that file. Otherwise, the other person would not be able to use that file. So every time you actually access or write or read the file, you have to close the file. So here with the finally, I'm actually saying, okay, if there is nothing in there, then in is null, right? Once you're done, your in becomes null. And I want to close the file. Okay, so when I run this, I get hello world because I have input.txt as hello world. And that's how you can actually use byte stream here. The reason how I'm using byte stream is because you can see here I've got this file reader class in here. So now as we will learn about how you can actually read the file, right? So now we're going to actually write in the file, okay, using this byte stream. So first here I'm actually doing file reader in. So file reader in is actually in is an object for this file reader class, and out is an object for the file writer class. So here I initialize that. Then in here I created the instance of this file reader just like before. In equal new file reader, the input.text. Then I created an instance of this file writer class using new file writer, and again provided the path here. So here I'm actually providing the path of the output text, output.txt, where I wanted to actually write. Then again here I'm actually doing int I equals 0, okay, just like before, and I'm doing a while loop in here. So here what I'm trying to do is, okay, for each character in this in this file, I want to write out that character in the output file. So here I do a while loop in here, I equal in.read. Okay, so it's going to read each character from this input.txt, and if it's not -1, okay, I want to actually write in that file. So how do you do this? Yeah, I created this object out.write. So in.read actually reads the file, out.write write the file, and here I'm actually writing each character. So it's just write content in output file, output.txt. Last one is finally in here. So if it's in is not null, I want to close that file in here, right? Once I'm done, I want to close this file, so I'm going to do in is not equal to null. I want to close the file in here. That is actually how you can use file reader and writer to actually read and write the file, right? So here I did read the file using this file reader, okay? Then I have this file writer out object for the file writer, and I'm actually reading from this input.txt and writing in the output.txt. So now you understood the concept of file reader and file writer. I'm actually going to go to IntelliJ in here. And in here, I've already created a folder called file.io. Okay, this is the package. So here, I'm actually going to create a new class in here, and I'm actually going to call it byte stream input. Okay, so in here, I'm actually going to create public static void main string args. So now, first thing I'm actually going to do is create a file reader in object in here. So I'm actually going to do import java.io file reader. So in here, right? So what I'm actually going to do is use try-catch as we learned, and I'm actually going to do in equal new file reader. So as soon as I do that here, right, if I close this one, it's going to throw an error because it requires parameter in here. So the parameter is the path name. Okay, as you can see, it says file name in here. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a variable, initialize a variable I equals 0. So here I'm actually going to provide the path, the file. So let's say I'm actually going to create a new file in here. So I'm actually going to say here input.txt. So in here I'm actually going to do hello world. So let's copy this path here. Okay, and let's go back into our file, and I'm actually going to provide the path. As soon as I write that, right, so Java and file reader is pretty smart enough to say, okay, once you read file reader, you're going to have to actually throw an exception. It says unhandled exception, file not found exception, okay? So that's one of the advantages of using IDE, because now it's saying that, okay, you want to use file reader, you need to have an exception, you need to throw an exception. So you're going to do here, throws file not found exception. So how do I know that? So there's a lot of exceptions Java that you can use. Okay, so here I've got throws file not found exception. So it's going to throw an exception if the file is not being found. So in here I'm actually going to do now while loop. Okay, so here I'm actually going to do while I equal in that read. So you're actually trying to read, right? So in here, so I'm actually saying it's not equal to -1, right? And let's see what it says here. It says unhandled exception java.io exception. So the other way you can also do is you can also add exception in here. So I'm actually going to do IO exception. Okay, so I got file not found exception and IO exception. And in here I'm actually going to do system.out.println, and here I'm going to print I. So this here, what I'm actually doing is I created a variable called in, right? I created this in object from this file reader class. Okay, it's initiating this file reader, and this file reader requires has a constructor object, and it requires the path. So I provided the path, and here I'm actually going to do a while loop. So what I'm actually saying is to read each character, right? So here I provided the character as I, so int I equals 0. So I started from 0. So read each character. So using int.read, so it's going to read each character, right? And if that is not equal to -1, means like there is a character in this file, print out that character. And also some people do this char, so it kind of converts this integer into character and prints it out. So now it's saying here, okay, now you got this try, right? So you don't have to provide cache because you already have this file net out extension IO exception. The next thing you do is do finally, right? So here I'm actually going to do int, it's not equal to, no. Here I'm actually going to do int close. So what you're going to do is after you do operations, right? Oops. After you do operations, you have to close the file. Otherwise, if you don't close the file, then the other programmers, right, other code would not be able to use this file because you have actually reserved that file. Okay, so every time you do these operations, always make sure that you close the file. So here, once I do this stuff, I actually close the file, right? If I try to do this and read, and if there's no file, it's going to throw an exception, right? File not found exception or IO exception. So now let's try to run this and see what happens. So I'm actually going to right click and run. And you can see here, it's printing out hello world, right? So since I have print ln, so it's printing each line, character in each line, I'm just going to do print and run it again. And now it says hello world. So basically what I did was I created an object from this file reader class, right? And this file reader has a constructor, okay, which requires a path of the file. So I provided that there. Then I did a while loop to read each character, right, until unless it's -1. If it's not equal to -1, then I want to print out each character, right? So we learned about while loop in our previous while loop class. So that's how you can actually access the file and read the file. So now next thing is we want to actually write in the file, right? So I'm actually going to copy this input and actually going to paste it there. And here I want to actually do output. Alright, so it has the same copy of it. So here I'm actually going to do file writer out equal null, right? And as soon as I do that, it tells me that I need to also import this file writer class. So I'm just going to do file writer. Alright, so in here I've got this in equal that, right? So I'm actually going to do out equal new file writer, and also here it requires a file name. So I'm actually going to copy this, paste it here, and instead of input I'm actually going to do output. And in here what I'm basically going to do is I'm actually going to write, okay, each character. So here what I did is just like before, right? I'm actually doing a while loop, so I'm reading the file, okay, and every character I'm writing into this file output.txt using this object out. Okay, you have in.read to read, out.write to write, and I'm writing each character, I. So I is character, right? So here I initialize 0. It's going to read each character. If it's not -1, it's going to write that character. And here I'm actually going to do typecast here. This is called typecasting, so you're actually converting this I into a character. Also, I wanted to close the file as well, output file as well. So now let's see what happens. So I'm actually going to right click and run, and it seems like the operation is done, and you will not see it here because I'm not printing it. I'm just writing into this file, right? So let's go see it created this output.txt. So if I click on it, and it says hello world, right? So that's how you can actually use file reader and writer. So file reader to read the characters from the file, and file writer to actually print out on the output file here. Alright, so that's it for this lecture. I will see you guys in our next lecture.